Welcome to the Jobs Report podcast by Swob, the job search platform that lets you swipe to success. Each episode, hosts Stephanie and Alexander Florio bring you expert insights on career trends, job hunting, and forging your path in the modern world of work. Your career success starts here, so let's dive in.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Jobs Report podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Craig Patterson, who is the CEO and publisher of Retail Insider Media and the co-editor-in-chief at retailinsider.com. Craig is a retail analyst and consultant who has studied the retail landscape for over the past 25 years. So welcome, Craig.
Thank you, Stephanie. Great to be here.
Awesome, amazing. Well, Craig, thank you so much for being here. I think the first thing we want to know is, can you tell us a little bit about your career journey and how you got to where you are today?
It's really unusual. It's not something I'd recommend that people, copy. But so I started Retail Insider in 2012, in April of 2012, as a blog, which I didn't know honestly would become what it is today in terms of being a news website as well as having a separate magazine and whatnot. But I was actually a lawyer. I was working in the BC courts. I was working with low-income litigants running various programs, and they were basically almost exclusively pro bono programs for lower income litigants and those that were in the courts. And I was also working part-time with homeless youth at Covenant House, so at-risk and homeless youth, I should say, to be clear. So I started just writing a blog, and my friend Richie told me that I should write about retail because I kept talking about it. I did it, and it eventually, really it didn't take too long, but it got traction, and from there it just snowballed and became what it is today. It took a lot of hard work, but it really came together. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, I absolutely love it, and I love my emails every day telling me about what new stores are opening, and sadly, I'll still never forget what sad news I got when I saw the Nordstrom closing here in Canada. So I know that was from you the first time I saw it, so it's pretty exciting, and just to see the different retail landscape and how things are changing constantly, and like I said, even just what new stores are coming to the country, and sadly which ones are leaving too. So I love that you keep everybody up to date in such a simple and easy way. So what does, I guess, obviously as things continue to change, there's, I would say, probably not, your everyday is probably not the same. So what can you tell us a little bit about what does your typical day or even work week look like?
Because we have a fairly small team, and because media is quite dynamic, it's really variable. I mean, I'll wake up and they say you're not supposed to do this, but check my phone and see if anything has blown up, because different time zones have different issues. And from there, it's really looking at, has anything happened so far today in the news? So I've got Mario Tuniguzi who works with me as co-editor-in-chief, so he's definitely on the ball and helps with that, because there's so much always to look at. But everything from communications, what stories are we going to be getting out today in the news publication, or if we're looking at the magazine, not quite as labor intensive, but what stories are we going to be putting in there? It's communicating with people. I'll be getting information, I'll be making corrections to articles. I don't want to say exhausting, but there's a lot of work that goes into it. And again, just because we have a downsized team currently, we've taken on everything and have done it, and it's been with good success. We've grown the publication, we've doubled the amount of content that we put out since the summer, but it's still a lot of work. So my day-to-day is pretty dynamic. It's going to be either in an office working from home, or on site visiting the new Tiffany store at Yorkdale, for example, and gobsmacked at how beautiful it is.
Gorgeous. I actually just saw it last week, and it's stunning. So I can imagine too. I love that you said you're waking up and checking your phone, because it is something that you need to be on the ball, and you need to know exactly what's going on, especially as a publication that you're educating people on what's happening in the retail industry. So what would you say, I guess, some skills that are essential for being successful in a role like yours?
I think it's being able to deal with things like stress, which, I'm sometimes good with that. Being able to multitask, I think, is very, very important, because there's a lot of obligations. There'll be a lot of stuff coming at me. Like, I don't know what the next text message is going to bring. I mean, when you mentioned Nordstrom closing, the way I got that information was through a text message from a person very much in the know. And, we had that information beforehand, obviously, so I was able to prepare an article for the announcement. But, we get a lot of information just from people. So it's really being able to, I think, handle a lot of different things, as well as also time management. There's no question there. And being able to put time aside. This is something I'm always struggling to do, but putting time aside, for example, to write something, to actually be able to just sit down and do the writing. Sometimes that's hard to do because, I'm running, also, in my case, I'm running a company. We're doing business development. We're trying to, get news stories out, as well as build a editorial calendar, which will make sense for the year, so that we can provide comprehensive comprehensive retail news to our readers, as well as provide something which will be beneficial to our advertisers, whether or not that's the current advertisers that we have, or whether or not that's advertisers that we'll be getting or are approaching. So, and those are all things that are part of this business. I wish I was independently wealthy and didn't have to do the business development side of things. It just make it so much more fun, because I got into this just wanting to write about retail. I didn't really want to have a business, so that wasn't the plan. None of this was a plan. I didn't say I'm going to be, the publisher of media company. By no means was that ever a goal that I had in my life. So it is now, and I've achieved that. But yeah, it's amazing. Sometimes life will take you on a journey that you don't expect. And I started Retail Insider when I was 36. So,
Incredible.
doing the math. Yeah, yes. I wasn't even that young, I would say. I'd done other stuff before. So you're never too old. I mean, not that 36 is old, but I'm 48 going on 49 now, and I still feel young, and I still want to do more. And we're starting another news publication about e-commerce and retail technologies.
That's fantastic. And that's exactly what I was going to say. Sometimes your career journey takes you on a different path. Like, even when I was in advertising, I never thought that I would start a job app with my brother. So things happen, and things happen for a reason. So it's part of your journey, and that's incredible. And now, kind of going back and learning a little bit more about your journey. So obviously, with Swob, we really focus on hourly type roles. And I was wondering if you could share, what was your very first job and what did you learn from it?
Oh my goodness, my very first job, I do remember this very clearly because it was rather unusual. So I worked as a tour guide, and also working, basically just helping manage a small museum in Edmonton, Alberta. It was called the Old Strathcona Model and Toy Museum. It was a lot of fun. But what it was paper art, essentially, which I know is a bit strange.
Wow.
The owners are from the UK. It's a kind of an art form that was developed there in years past. And so Mr. Bell and Mrs. Bell made these beautiful models of, different buildings and whatnot, so people would be able to come through this museum and look at it. And, what did I take away from that job? Well, I worked with people, which was a lot of fun. I did some, bookkeeping around. We had a little store that sold, oddly enough, like origami paper and like these paper cutout magazines and stuff like that. Again, really niche. And that was my only retail experience, by the way.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
I did a little bit of ordering. We ordered these books. Like, you cut them out and you put dresses on dolls. This was, again, a thing that we had. I don't know what kind of profit margins, if any profit we were making. It was not a very profitable store, but it was literally a room in a beautiful old house, which I might add, I mean, I don't believe in ghosts, but I would say it was haunted. That was probably one of the most fun parts of that experience. And my second job, and these were when I was a student in university during these jobs, I worked at the Telephone Museum in Edmonton, which was there after the other museum closed. And yeah, don't be afraid if buildings do funny stuff, because I've never been hurt, but oh my God, the stuff that I saw working in these old buildings was that's almost the most memorable thing. I know that's probably not relevant to this podcast.
Wow.
But yeah, seeing books moving and on shelves and stuff like that is just really, really kind of cool and fun. But again, like I said, I don't believe in ghosts. I just don't know what I saw.
Wow. Well, that's definitely interesting. I don't think we've ever had somebody mention that before when talking about what they've seen or learned from their first job. But I could say, if that was your first job, that retail experience, now look, so it added value to what you're doing, because you kind of had firsthand experience, and now look at the incredible publication that you've built. So it's pretty amazing, because that retail experience, it does, and especially with your first job, that's something that we're really trying to educate our listeners and our users, is you do find value in your first job, no matter what it is, whether it's something like time management, or in your case, understanding kind of the retail landscape, which then in turn help you today to understand a little bit more and educate yourself a little bit more when you're writing these articles, that you kind of have that understanding of what it's like to work in the retail space.
Absolutely. And also, like, I've learned a lot through osmosis, spoken to a lot of retailers and, people involved in the industry, left, right, and center. And I think that too also is really, really relevant. So probably networking is going to be an important, part of any job, as well as just getting to, if a person has a certain interest in a certain area and they want a job there, getting to know that area, perhaps, meeting with some experts, or even just, getting a taste for the job. I mean, this is, sort of, I guess it is relevant. I wish that I'd spent some time in court when I was more time. I only spent a couple hours in court before I became a lawyer. Maybe I wouldn't have made that decision to be a lawyer. So, either getting your feet wet or getting to know a bit more about that job or career, something that might be really, really useful to people. And in this case with retail, perhaps even working in it. So co-op programs with, say, secondary institutions, or even just getting some retail experience if a person is interested in that particular thing as a career. And retail as a career, I think, is potentially very positive. I mean, what does a manager of a Walmart store make? You can get to that level, you're making, well into the six figures. So,
Exactly.
Retail as a career, I think, is quite important to look at, because it's still a huge industry. I don't think a lot of people think about that.
Oh, I totally agree. I absolutely love that. And I appreciate your feedback, because I think it is very important and very valuable for people to understand that. Sometimes you might overlook retail but it is a very important industry to work in. So it's always here. So it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, whether or not it's online or in store, right?
Exactly. Well, Craig, I appreciate you joining us today. If people want to get some more information on Retail Insider, can you share the website link or some more information on Retail Insider?
You bet. We've got a website, www.retail-insider.com. We've also got, if you Google Retail Insider, the magazine, because I think that's the URL, but I'll have to check. Yeah, I'm on social media as well. Craig Patterson Toronto is the underscore, and then Retail Insider, our Instagram as well, if people want to look up our social media there. Although Meta has kind of blocked some Canadian news, I think we're still up there and can be seen. But anyways, it is what it is.
Yeah, of course. Well, Craig, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate you joining the podcast today. Thanks everyone for listening to the Jobs Report podcast, brought to you by Swob.